This game right here was created by a solo developer using Unreal Engine 5 over the course of only 3 weeks, and it made roughly $4 million. This and much more is what we'll talk about in today's episode of our ongoing series of Unreal Engine indie games to inspire you. Let's start with
Number 5.
Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions is a gamified focus tool created with Unreal Engine 5.3. It allows you to create your own avatar, decorate your room, and fill up your collection of animal spirits by performing certain actions. On the productivity side, it offers a to-do list, a Pomodoro timer, a habit tracker, and a notebook, with a large library of lo-fi music provided by Homework Radio being available. Choosing a heavyweight engine such as Unreal Engine 5 for something like this, which will constantly run in the background, seems like an odd choice. But the developers have been very good about optimizing it and kept on making improvements based on player feedback. When running in the background on my laptop with a mobile RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 9 5900HX, it barely has any impact and also uses less memory than a single Google Chrome tab. Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions is a huge success with an estimated gross revenue of almost $2 million for the base game, and they also received an Epic Mega Grant. Considering that Mooncube Games, the creators of this game, are a small indie studio and only had 4 core members working on this project, that makes it all the more impressive.
Number 4.
Veldchaser is a free action roguelite which is available on Steam and was created with Unreal Engine 5.3. The development took roughly 10 months and was a college project by a team of 12 students attending the University of California in Irvine. I reached out to one of the team leads, Daniel Bogosian, who was happy to give me some insight on the development of the project and also let me know about their devlog series. Veldchaser was created using a mix of blueprints and C++, utilizing C++ for procedurally generated content and complex systems, while relying on blueprints for the majority of the gameplay implementation and the potion mixing system. Even though this was just a student project, the entire team was extremely passionate about it and kept on working on it for 5 extra months after the assignment was over, to polish it up and release it on Steam as a free title. It's gotten very positive reviews and over 2,500 downloads, with the unique visuals and inventive potion mixing system garnering a lot of praise. When I asked him why they chose to release it on Steam instead of itch.io, he mentioned that putting it up on Steam fueled their motivation to put in that extra level of polish that a Steam release deserves. And it also gave them the chance to experience what it's like to implement Steam achievements and set up a good-looking Steam page. He mentioned that the game had a big positive impact for every member on the team while looking for game studio jobs. And as you've probably already noticed, Veldchaser is a 2D-3D hybrid utilizing a static mesh for the stage, while the player, enemies, and many other objects are 2D sprites. The majority of the artists on their team were 2D artists, but their programmers wanted to work with Unreal and C++. So in order to figure out a compromise, they looked into what can be done in Unreal with 2D sprites, and ended up coming across my channel, which showed them some possible options. The 2D artists would use Spine to rig the characters and create the animations. However, since the Spine SDK wasn't compatible with Unreal Engine 5.3 at the time, they'd export the sprite sheets and just use regular paper 2D flipbooks to handle the animation states. Overall, Veldchaser is an impressive project, and I'm always excited to see more developers experiment with Unreal for 2D and 2D-3D hybrid games. So a huge thanks to Daniel and the Let 'em Cook Games team for sharing their journey with Veldchaser.
Number 3.
A game about digging a hole might just be one of the most successful indie games in terms of revenue against person-hours spent in development. It was created by a solo developer using Unreal Engine 5 over the course of roughly 3 weeks. Even just 2 days after release, it had an estimated gross revenue of over $200,000, but at this point exploded above 20 times that amount, exceeding an estimated gross revenue of over $4 million according to Gamealytic.com. At its core, the game is very simple and just does one thing, but does it extremely well. You start digging a hole with a small shovel, picking up stones and ores which you can then sell to upgrade your gear and stamina. This leads to a very addictive gameplay loop where you spend money to become more powerful, which then allows you to make more money faster to become even more powerful. One thing that needs to be mentioned is that the developer behind this game is not an inexperienced amateur that just got lucky on their first game, but actually someone who has quite a lot of experience. Originally, the developer on the Steam page was listed as Cyberwave, which is a team of 2 developers from Germany. But recently the listing changed to Double B, which I guess is now the label for the one half of Cyberwave who created this game. Cyberwave not only released 2 Unreal games in 2021 with some level of success, but also gathered over 300,000 euros on Kickstarter for their survival crafting game Solarpunk, which they are still working on. A game about digging a hole features an art style very similar to Solarpunk, and the voxel-based destruction system was also prototyped within Solarpunk. But it ended up being scrapped and eventually was repurposed for this game. Overall, I believe that this is a great example that simple ideas can work out if executed correctly, and that longer and more complex games don't necessarily deliver more value to the players.
Number 2.
Magurele Mystery is a short horror game created by a Romanian solo developer using Unreal Engine 5. It is the first game by Street Art Studio and actually started out as a project that was only meant to be played by his friends. However, they egged him on to put it up on Steam, which led to a lot of interesting developments. I must say this game is quite janky and very rough around the edges, but the mix between horror and meme humor makes it something special you don't really see a lot nowadays. Even though the developer didn't reach out to any streamers or content creators, just naturally a big Romanian YouTuber named ZappyTV picked it up and released a video which reached over 100,000 views. This led to roughly 1,500 copies sold. Since then, Street Art Studios released 4 more small games, with most of them being comedy-infused horror games that heavily rely on the horror engine template you can find on Fab. When I reached out to him for more background information, he said that during high school he messed around a bit with Unity, but wasn't too fond of coding in C#. After graduating, he started research on Unreal Engine 4 and liked how Blueprint visual scripting allowed him to work much faster. And instead of looking up tutorials too much, a combination of relying on the horror engine and a lot of trial and error led to him being able to finish his first game after roughly 6 months of development. Too often do I see developers get stuck in tutorial hell or a quest for perfection, being paralyzed and never building up the courage to actually release anything. So I definitely commend his approach of just putting things out there, even if some people will complain about the quality of your early work. Another noteworthy element is the Romanian setting in all of his games. Many movies are based on Romanian folklore and myths, and high-profile titles such as Resident Evil 8 made great usage of the setting. But it's not often seen in indie games, and this led to him building a small but dedicated audience of Romanian players.
Number 1.
Nightmare Kart, previously known as Bloodborne Kart, is a free kart racer heavily inspired by the Bloodborne IP, and it was created by the same developers, Lilith Walter Media, responsible for Bloodborne PSX. Bloodborne Kart started out as a joke, but after stitching together a somewhat playable demo of it using Unreal Engine 4, the feedback was so overwhelmingly positive that they decided to double down on it and turn it into an actually playable game. They had so much fun making it that they just kept on rolling with it and added more cards, items and stages. However, near the beginning of 2024, they were contacted by Sony and had to rename the game to Nightmare Kart, while also taking out content directly referring to Bloodborne. Despite that, the game is still highly inspired by Bloodborne and features a similar aesthetic. As of December 2024, Nightmare Kart reached over 750,000 downloads, and in February 2025 they announced a DLC pack called The Old Cards. This is yet another example of how a game engine is so much more than just the graphics, and even though they had no need for Unreal's photorealistic capabilities, the workflow benefits and familiarity with the engine made it the right choice for their team. As always, thanks to my awesome patrons and now also my awesome YouTube channel members.